به نام خدا. هموطنان گرامی، سلام. هر جایی که هستید در کنار خانواده‌هایتان خوب و خوش و صحتمند باشید. از صفحه جهانی سیاست افغانستان در خدمت شما هستیم با یک برنامه ویژه و یک مهمان ویژه، یک خبرنگار یا یک محقق از کشور ایتالیا به نام گرمونزی لورنس امروز مهمان برنامه ماست. با همکاری دسترس در خدمت شما هستیم نظر به گزارشاتی که اخیراً از طریق یکی از شبکه‌های دولت ایتالیا، شبکه‌های تلویزیونی و نشر رسیده، گویا یک سند مبنی بر اخذ رشوت توسط اشرف که گفته شده امیر قطر به عنوان هدیه یا هدیه تسلیمی به دولت افغانستان یا به شخص اشرف و نماینده ویژه دکتر اشرف به نام اجمل احمدی تحلیل داده شده و این سند در تلویزیون و رسانه بسیار معتبر ایتالیا به نشر رسیده. اینکه در این یک هفته اخیر کسانی که مرتبط با این یا مخاطب با این نامه بودن مثل خود دکتر اشرف یا دولت قطر یا دولت امریکا و پروژه یا پروسه دوحه، هیچ یک از این اشخاص حقیقی و یا حقوقی این را تکذیب نکردند. بنابراین ما به تحقیق امروز از یکی از خبرنگاران بسیار قوی و برجسته ایتالیا که در رابطه با مسائل افغانستان هم آشنایی دقیق و عمیق دارند و در طی 40 سال اخیر رفت آمدایی داشتن و اخیراً گویا بنا دارن یک کتاب راجع به افغانستان بنویسن. دوستان لطف کردن ایشان را به معرفی گرفتن و ایشان دعوت کردیم تا در رابطه با سندیت دقیق یا عدم دقت این سند تحلیل و تجزیهشان داشته باشن. و امروز دکتر توسط لطف میکنن زحمت ترجمانی گفته های مهمان ما را دارن. دوستان عزیز بسیار دقیق راجع به این برنامه گوش کنید. اگر احتمالاً پرسش های دقیق و فنی دارید از طریق کامنت بنگارید. پرسش های شما را هم از مهمان گرامی خواهیم خواست که به پاسخ بگیرم. سپاسگزارم از دکتر سیاست و همچنین مهمان گرامی جناب آقای گرمونزی لورنس که ایشان سابقه خدمت در یکی از روزنامه‌های صبح ایتالیا رو دارن به نام اخبار صبح با 50 سال سابقه کار. خوش آمد میگویم. ابتدا سلام دارم خدمت دکتر صاحب و از طریق خودم و هموطنان عزیز و مهمان گرامی سلام تقدیم می‌کنم.
و علیکم السلام. Welcome to show and thank you so much for joining us today.
For you. Thank you very much for having me with you. Thank you.
تشکر از شما که فرصت مصاحبه ساختین که با شما باشم.
سپاسگزارم. دکتر صاحب شما با هموطنان عزیز ما یک سلام وطنی داشته باشید.
بله، عرض سلام به همه هموطنان عزیز در هر جایی که هستن. امیدوار هستم خوش و سر حال باشن و از آفات مأمون و مسئول.
سپاسگزارم از همکاری شما. خب به عنوان اولین پرسش راجع به این سندی که یکی از تلویزیون‌های دولتی ایتالیایی را به نشر رسانده، میخواستم بدانم که معلومات عمومیشان چیست تا به یک سری پرسش‌های تخصصی برسیم.
Okay. First, we would like to hear from you about this recent document released by an Italian state TV channel known as a GT1 regarding the money that Dr. Ashraf Ghani, the ex-president of Afghanistan, received from the King of Qatar as a gift. So what is your take on that, please?
First of all, let me give you the fact. It was on the evening of the 1st of February at about 8 o'clock p.m., which is the main TV news program from Rai TG1, which is the first channel of the Italian national TV. And it was broadcasted clearly. It was quite long. And reports saying that some of the major responsible of the previous Afghani government were paid, received clear amount of money from Qatar in order to not to fight, not to resist the Taliban, which in the summer were slowly conquering Afghanistan and arrived in Kabul on the 15th of August. The report shows some documents. They show that the President Ghani got about $110 million. Atta Mahmoud Noor, the governor of the North, got about 60, and General Abdul Rashid Dostum about $50 million. These money were paid apparently around the 7th of July, 2021, and they were given by one Qatar representative, Mr. Mutlaq Al-Qatani, and apparently one of the main mediators was acting governor of the central bank, Mr. Ajmal Ahmadi. As you see, the report is quite detailed. They show some document with some receipt. The strange element, which put me a bit in alert, makes it sound strange, is that the fact that this money apparently were paid on local bank account in Afghanistan. And that makes things strange, first of all, because it's so clear, everybody can know. And secondly, why to pay people who are supposed to escape, clearly to leave Afghanistan, in bank account in Afghanistan? Why is that?
Okay. آقای ضرابی اینا دیگه امی جریان تشریح کردن. گفت بگذارن که من میره بگویم که راپورت چی گفته و چی وقت نشر شد. یک تلویزیون تقریبا معتبر ایتالیا است و به تاریخ 4 و فکر میکنم در وقت شام گفتن این خبر اونا نشر کردن و که امی مسئله را میگه که از طرف امیر قطر به مقدار مبلغ 110 میلیون دلار و چند صد هزار از طرف امیر قطر به اشرف غنی تحفه داده شده و در توسط میانجیگری یکی از تیم اشرف غنی که در بانک مرکزی اونا وظیفه دارن و نماینده اشرف غنی هستن، این پیسه تحویل داده شده و مقصد از این هدیه ای بوده که اشرف غنی قدرت ترک بکنه و در مقابل طالبا مقاومت نکنه و اینا توضیح کردن.
بسیار زیاد تشکر. اینکه خبرگزاری معتبر بوده و نشر خبرم بسیار مهم است. این خبر طبق اسناد بسیار دقیق و شاید هم سری دوستا بر ما عنوان کردن که در اصل خبرگزاری الجزیره این سند در اختیار داشته، چون در جغرافیای قطر زندگی میکنن یا محصول هستن این خبرگزاری، خودشان این کار رو نکردن. احتمالاً توسط مافیاهایی که در ایتالیا وجود داره، نظر به داد و ستدهای مالی و یا سیاسی، این اتفاق رخ داده. چی تحلیل دارن که سند از کجا گرفته شدن؟
Okay. When we see this TV channel is pretty reliable, and this is very critical document which was released. So evidence shows that this document was originally came from Al Jazeera TV channel. And he had that document since they are Qatari TV channel, and it is Qatar-based TV channel. They did not want to release that document by themselves, and so they handed over to some mafia circle to release it through that Italian TV channel. How do you think, and where this where this document came from?
Well, I tell you, I would take this document with great care and a lot of suspicious. For many reasons. First of all, because it's plausible. I mean, you know, it makes sense. I was myself in Kabul at the time. I stayed for about 2 months, between August and September till the beginning of October. And of course, there was all this rumor of, you know, Mr. Ghani, ex-President Ghani being paid. He denied. I mean, there is nothing new in the dynamic of the payment.
Excuse me, when was that? In August, before the Taliban took over? You were in Kabul?
Well, I arrived while the Taliban were taking over. I arrived during the fight. I came, first of all, I think was about the 16, 17 with an Italian plane, and I was a military plane. I was myself on the plane to participate, to cover the evacuation of people from the airport. And then I came in alone from Khyber Pass, from Pakistan. Myself entered in Afghanistan under the Taliban. That was at the end of August, and I stayed all over. I mean, during the Taliban period, I was there with the Taliban in power.
That means you were in Kabul when Taliban took over.
Exactly. I was there.
Yeah, that was my question. Okay, yeah, thank you.
And I stayed there for a couple of months. And I remember this rumor about Ghani being paid. He denied the helicopter was full of money or not, were already there. I mean, the idea that someone, also one of the question which was in the air was, how come the Afghani government, the Afghani army, the police collapsed so quickly? So all this was in there. Now, 2 years later, almost 2 years later, come out again, I mean, 1.5 years later, the story come out again, as you say, from Al Jazeera. Qatar decide not to publish it. We don't know. I would say that today is more slippery the terrain. And again, my question is at the moment very practical. To pay all this money through local banks, everybody can know it. You know, there are employees, there are people involved. How come it didn't come out before? And why to do it through the Afghani bank? You can do in London, you can do secretly in Switzerland. There are many other channels, much less visible, much less open. So again, there are interests. We know that there are different, for instance, Arab Emirates are interested in competing for the airport, for the connection with the Taliban. There are different secret agencies working there. I would take this document a lot. We don't have a final proof. The TV, the Italian first channel.
Yes. Let me translate. So let me summarize your comments and statements that you mean, in one hand, it sounds true because there was a lot of rumor before leaving.
Let's say it sound possible. It sound
possible.
Somehow reasonable, but you know, one thing is to be possible and one thing is to be real. I'm not sure at all that is real.
Okay. And on the other hand, you doubt it, right?
Yes, very much.
Okay, let me translate it. ضرابی اینا گفتن که ما در مورد ازی اسناد و در مورد ازی قضیه دو دیدگاه دارم. یکیش مرا باورمند میسازه که درست است و دیگهش نه، مرا در شک میاندازه. چیزی که مرا باور میده و حضور ما در کابل بود. وقتی که ما اونجا بودم و آوازه آمدن طالبان بود بسیار گرم و مردم می گفتند که امیگا که دکتر اشرف غنی کدام معامله کرده که امرای طالبان جنگ نکنه و برای اونا قدرت تسلیم بکنه و به او لحاظ ما باور کرده میتونم که کدام چیزی شده باشه، چون جنگ صورت نگرفت و طالبان آمدن قدرت به دست گرفتن. و در طرف دیگه قضیه از نظر تکنیکی امی تادیه پول از طریق یک بانک افغانی که اونجا همه مردم میتونه او را بفهمه و درک بکنه، مرا در یک شک مندازه در مقابل تادیه پول و حقیقت سند. چرا این پول میتونست از طریق بانک لندن یا کدام بانک دیگه خارجی تادیه شوه و این معامله از اون طریق صورت بگیره؟ دیگه اینا نظرشانی بود که هم از یک لحاظ باور کردنی است و از لحاظ دیگه شک دارم.
And can I add something?
Sure, میگم میخوایم یک چیز اضافه کنم. Sure.
There is another consideration, because I've been in Afghanistan on and off from the last 20 years a lot of time. I was even with the Taliban in the 90s at the time of the Mullah Omar and when Osama bin Laden was there in 1996, and I follow all the events. Now, why to pay this money to these people, including the president, when it was clear since a long time that the Taliban were winning? Me, having been there, I was sure that the Taliban in few weeks, few months, would have won. They were winning since a long time, since the famous Trump agreement the year before. So why to pay?
Yes.
They could have resisted another 2-3 months, but the destiny was already clear that the regime was collapsing in any case.
Okay. Let me translate.
Yes.
ما همیشه در افغانستان بودم. ملاحظه دیگری که ما دارم در این مورد، چون ما در افغانستان بودم، همیشه مسائل افغانستان و انکشافاتی که در افغانستان صورت گرفته تعقیب کردیم و حتی ما در کابل در دور اول طالبان وقتی که ملا عمر اونجا امیرشان بود، ما در اونجا بودم، ما همه مسائل تعقیب کردیم و میفهمم. ملاحظه دیگری ما این است که چرا کسی باید پیسه بده دکتر اشرف غنی را در حالی که طالبان در برد بود. طالبان هر روز پیشرفت داشت و با جهان در تماس و در معامله بود و شکست دولت اشرف غنی و برد طالبان حتمی بود. پس در این صورت چرا مردم پول بده؟ چرا رشوت بده که او قدرت به طالبان تفویض بکنه؟
خب این پرسش به وجود میاد که ما در کابل شاهد چشمدیدی حتی یک گلوله در مقابل طالبان نبودیم، در حالی که گفته میشد 300,000 نیروی نظامی داره افغانستان و در کابل بیش از 45,000 نیروی نظامی متمرکز بود و با ورود 8 نفر طالب در داخل هر کابل 5 میلیونی تسلیم شد. این خودش گواهی بر تسلیمی کابل و یا در مجموع افغانستان نیست؟
He said, as we know, in Afghanistan, there was 350,000 security forces, our national army. And out of this, only 45,000 troops were stationed in Kabul. How come there was even one bullet was not shot against Taliban, and everything were handed over to Taliban? So how we can refuse the involvement of Ashraf Ghani is making such a deal with someone, or Qatar or any other power of the world?
Well, can I tell you, you mentioned Kabul, but in effect, the same situation happened in many other parts of the country. Herat, there was a beginning of the resistance at the beginning, at the 2, 3 months, 4 months before earlier, but then the Taliban entered quite easily. If you go to Herat, and myself, by the way, in that period, in September, I went to Herat, and the city was intact, was taken by the Taliban quite quickly. And remember, Herat is an Hazara city, is near Iran. There could have been much more resistance, and they didn't. I tell you, I entered, at the time, the Italians were in charge, by the way. The Italian contingent was in charge of Herat. That's why I went quite often to Herat. And I went myself, I went to the base, the Italian base, which is inside there, is near the airport of Herat. And a Taliban commander accompanied me. I went inside as a guest of the Taliban in the old Italian base, and the base was untouched. There was no fight. The police and the army, there were thousands of soldiers there, gave up. They made an agreement with the Taliban, and they left the base intact. You look at the base, you look at the airport, there is no one bullet on the wall. Everything is perfect. In Kandahar, I was again at the time in Kandahar, and in Kandahar there was a fight at the beginning around the city, quite tough. I mean, if you believe it or not, there was more fight in the Pashtun area, I mean, pro-Taliban city generally considered. There was more fight in Kandahar than in Herat. But then so it was not only Kabul. Sir, my impression is that it was the corrupted system which collapsed. And here they are responsible by Ashraf Ghani, by the local government, and by the coalition, which was not able to understand that the system they built, it was deeply flat, it was deeply unstable, deeply rotten. It was a rotten system.
اگر بفرمایید که کوتاه پاسخ بدم.
Okay. This is what Mr. ضرابی said, that even one bullet was not fired. Everything was handed over. So the same thing that you explained to Mr. ضرابی just told.
Yes.
He said his point was that there was a dealing, a compromise, something were going on, that every province of Afghanistan were gone into the hand of Taliban. Let me explain your words to the viewers, and then he asked if you could make short paragraph or sentences so we can translate it easily.
Oh, sorry.
Let me translate the summary of your word to the viewer. اینا گفتن که امو گپ شما را تکرار کردن که گفتن یک مرمی فایر نشد تو کابل با وجود ازی که اقدر قوا در اونجا موجود بود. اینا با تایید امو گپ از هرات یادآوری کردن که در اونجا یک بیس نظامی ایتالیا بود و ما اونجا بودم و وقتی که ما رفت و این بیس بسیار نزدیک میدان هوایی بود و ما وقتی میخواستم برم به میدان هوایی مرا یک قماندان طالب همراهی میکرد و اینجا هیچ کدام مقاومت در مقابل از آن نبود و نه اونا کدام احساس خطر میکردن و ارات تصرف کردن.
در مورد کابل
بله بفرمایید. در مورد کابل
شما پرسشی که ما داشتیم در مورد تحویلدهی کابل بود که عرض کردیم یک فایر مرمی صورت نگرفت، هر با حضور 8 تا طالب با 8 تا کلاشینکوف کابل تسلیم شدی. مثلا یک مقدار با اون چیزی که گفتن طالبا در حال تصرف بودن یک مقدار مغایرت داره این گفتن.
مغایرت
یعنی برخلاف اون چیزی که میگن هست 8 تا طالب با 8 تا کلاشینکوف وارد حرب میشه کابل تسلیم. این نشانه بر این نیست که اشرف غنی معامله کرده و این سندم دال برای قضیه میتونه باشه؟
Yeah, he said, I'm speaking about Kabul specifically.
Yes.
So Kabul was handed over, inspired having that 45,000 troops in it, to 8 individuals from Taliban with 8 Kalashnikov. The Taliban was handed over. It doesn't tell you that there was a dealing of Ashraf Ghani with someone about that to happen.
Can I tell you, sir, referring to Kabul and all together with the country, my impression is that the deal was done by the American 1 year earlier by President Trump. And when the Americans started to negotiate separately, independently from Ghani with the Taliban, the Afghani morale collapsed. The country, for me, was astonished. It could have happened even earlier. The Taliban could have taken the country in earlier. There was an inner collapse, a total instability in the country, and the incapacity to resist because of corruption, because of previous events which characterize the social life of the country. The country, uno, was not ready to fight. Okay. Nobody would have died for Ashraf Ghani. That was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The legitimacy of this government was not clean.
Okay, all right. So you mean that deal was made by President Trump with Taliban, not with Ashraf Ghani, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then how come Ashraf Ghani did not resist? If he was not a part of deal, how he didn't resist?
Sir, let me say, Ashraf Ghani was not a competent president.
Okay.
The Ashraf Ghani, there was a lot of fraud in the election before. You know the problem of the elections. I don't have to tell you what was the problem. So he was not considered a good president by many people.
Okay.
He was not considered legitimate by many people, and that was the entire political system was not respected anymore.
Okay, so you mean the collapse of Ashraf Ghani's administration was because of his incompetence?
Absolutely.
Because of his corruption.
Yes.
Not because of dealing with someone, right?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Let me now translate.
Yes.
ضرابی صاحب اینا گفتن که معامله که شما اشاره کردین برای تصرف کابل، اینا با وی ارتباط نظر خود ابراز کردن، گفتن که این معامله بله صورت گرفته بود، معامله را ما رد نمی کنیم، ولی این معامله با توسط امریکا که در وقت رئیس جمهور ترامپ رئیس جمهوری امریکا بود، این معامله با طالبا صورت گرفته بود و طالبا به این اساس برنده شدن و اشرف غنی را ما از پیشش پرسان کردم، سوال کردم که در این معامله دخیل نبود، یعنی شما میگین که اشرف غنی معامله نکرده؟ گفت نه، از بین رفتن اشرف غنی علتش فساد و بی‌کفایتی اشرف غنی بود.
خب این سند شما ملاحظه میکنیم؟
بله.
شما نزدیک بینتون خوب است یا من بخوانم؟
بخوانن، بفرمایید.
خب این سندی که توسط تلویزیون GT1 دولت ایتالیا پخش شده و ایشان فرمودن که از معتبرترین تلویزیون‌های ایتالیا است.
بله.
و جناب گرمونزی لورنس 40 سال است که افغانستان هم میشناسن و در رفت آمد است. من این سند از جهت آگاهی هموطنان عزیز ما میخوانم. خب سفارت
باشن که ما برش همی بگویم. There is a document you see written in Farsi scripture. If you, the text is Farsi. And this document was released by the very reliable source, which is Italian TV channel. And now he is trying to read this to viewers and then if he has any question, then I will ask you.
All right.
All right.
سفارت دولت قطر کابل
Mhm.
با رسم الخط عربی نوشته شده، هم آرم سفارت است. اینجا
آها.
داخل قوس محرم نوشته شده.
Mhm.
بعد هم قطر هم نمبر تاریخ است 2021. تاریخش هم 7/7/2021 میلادی. موضوع
بله.
سند تسلیمی ادعیه والا حضرت امیر دولت قطر
Mhm.
به تعقیب نامه‌های قبلی تسلیمی شماره 492 مورخ 15/3/2021 و نمبر 380 مورخ 13/12/2020. احتمالاً صحبت بوده. اینک اقرار می نمایم این جانب اجمل احمدی رئیس کل افغانستان بانک و نماینده خاص جلالت مآب محمد اشرف غنی رئیس جمهور جمهوری اسلامی افغانستان در ملاقاتی که با هیئت دولت قطر به ریاست محترم جناب مطلق بن ماجد القحطانی نماینده ویژه دولت قطر در امور حل منازعات و معاون سفارت قطر در کابل داشتم. ادعیه والا حضرت شیخ تمیم بن حمد آل ثانی امیر دولت قطر برای جلالت مآب رئیس جمهور محمد اشرف غنی یک پارچه چک به ارزش 110,478,000 دلار 110,478,000 دلار امریکایی می باشد در حضورداشت هیئت عالی رتبه دولت قطر و دیپلماتان ارشد سفارت تسلیم شده. این سند است که نشر شده. این که درست است یا غلط موضوعی است که بعداً ثابت خواهد شد. و عرضتان برسانم جدای از هر موضوعی که اشرف غنی معامله کرده با عوامل سیاسیش یا نکرده داخل قوس، یک موضوعی که یک دولت بیگانه به رئیس جمهور برحال یک کشور رشوت میده و این خودش دخالت است که از لحاظ حقوق بین الملل پیگرد داره. یعنی امیر قطر به لحاظ حقوقی مردم افغانستان میتوانند پیگرد کنند در دادگاه‌های بین المللی به عنوان دخالت در تصمیم‌گیری یک دولت ثابت برای یک گروه و گروهی که در پایتخت اون کشور معاملات صورت گرفته. این مسئله بسیار تاریخی و مهم است. شما بفرمایید از آقای لورنس بپرسین که این سند با دقت خواندن.
He said and explained that letter and said a few words introducing the nature, the originality of the letter. And he said this letter is that letter belonged to the embassy of Qatar in Kabul. It says the embassy of Qatar, and the logo of embassy is printed there.
Yes.
So he explained a little bit the content of the letter. The question that he is posing to you, that if a country give that much money to a president to sell his country, so from the point of view legitimacy, so Afghan can claim any legitimate claim against the government of Qatar under international law, since this is a legitimate activity to give cash amount to a president to leave the country. So he asked, have you read this document, and how sure you are about the truthfulness of this document?
Again, I will try to be short, sir. this document was shown and translated partially by the Italian TV. Uno, if this document was true, would be proved real, and it happened, of course, the Afghans have every reason to sue Qatar, to ask for compensation, to accuse Qatar of interfering in its own internal to interfere in internal affairs in Afghanistan. But again, I'm not sure at all. First of all, we have to be sure that this document is true, and we simply don't know.
اوکی اینا گفتن که بله این داکومنت بی سند ما خواندیم و ترجمه شده بود به زبان ایتالیایی، مگر ما نمیفهمیم که این درست است و یا خیر. اگر درست باشه این سند بدون شک مردم افغانستان حق دارن و یک دعوا اینا عنوان بکنن علیه حکومت قطر و اونا را جریمه بکنن و یک کار غیر قانونی است و معلوم شود که درست است یا نه. اینا گفتن.
جناب دکتر یوسفزی، بحث مسابقات فوتبال که اخیراً که 2 ماه پیش در دوحه قطر بود، گفته شده که دولت قطر به فیفا هم گویا 20 میلیون دلار یا با کم زیاد دقیق نمیدونم، یکی از مقامات فیفا رشوت داده بودن برای اینکه بتوانن میزبانی کنن جام جهانی را، و دولت قطر از این سوابق ما داریم متاسفانه. به هر حال این شکایت نزد مردم افغانستان محفوظ است. جناب لورنس شاید خبر داشته باشم که اشرف میگفت من غیر از کتاب هیچ سرمایه ندارم. 1.5 سال است در یکی از بهترین وکلای امارات عربی زندگی میکنه. فکر میکنه این پولا از کجا آمده در حالی که مردم ما نان برای خوردن ندارن.
اوکی. He said, we have heard that the recent football championship, that World Cup took place in Qatar. He said, we heard that Qatar gave around $20 million to FIFA.
Yes.
To be hosted for that World Cup.
Yes.
So this is the Qatar's system, or there is a background.
Yes.
He said. So we cannot reject that totally. So we should keep that in mind as well. And another thing he said about ex-President Ghani, when he claimed that his total wealth was just his book, and he has no any other thing or any other wealth or money, while he is living now in a very expensive and luxury hotel in Dubai. Where that money comes from?
Sir, I don't really, I wouldn't put a penny on the honesty of Mr. Ghani at all. I met him many times. I interviewed him personally in his villa. And that by the way, he was working before for the World Bank, and there were a lot of rumors about him even before. But sir, let me say something. I am sure on this, I'm absolutely sure that even if this man, imagine this money were paid, and it's true, okay? Imagine it's true. Afghanistan, if this money would have not been paid, okay? Imagine would have not been paid, Afghanistan would have collapsed in any case. The victory of the Taliban was written on the walls of the country.
Okay.
And this because of the inner corruption of the system, because the incapacity of the international coalition. We can go on for one evening to say why it happened. But the victory of the Taliban was inevitable. And this is the point of view of any foreign journalist who had been in Afghanistan long enough to see what happened.
اینا گفتن گپی که اشرف غنی گفته که ما سرمایه‌ام کتاب است و ما پول ندارم. این حرف‌های زور ما به یک پولم پیش ما ارزش نداره، چون ما اعتماد ندارم به او و او عامل شد که اگر گیرم بگوییم که پیسه به او داده نشده و او رشوت نگرفته، باز هم بی‌کفایتی زو برای هر کس ثابت بود و نه تنها بی‌کفایتی زو و ناتوانی زو در اداره مملکت، حتی قوت‌های ائتلافی که در افغانستان بود و اونا هم از خود بی‌کفایتی کامل نشان دادن.
خب من پرسش بسیار زیاد دارم، ولی اگر کوتاه پاسخ بدن. در بخش اول صحبتشان یکی دو نام دیگر هم در کنار اشرف غنی گرفتن. شما متوجه شدین دکتر سید؟ نام جنرال دوستم به نظرم گرفتن.
نه، من نشنیدم که نام کسی دیگر گرفته باشه.
میتونین بپرسین بگین دو نفر دیگه هم نام گرفته شده، اینا چقدر دقت داره این نام ها؟
یعنی در این معامله با
شریک؟ بله در این معامله داکومنت.
یا اوکی. He said there are numerous questions we need to ask, but if you could answer a little bit shortly and briefly. So he is asking that you pick a couple names with Ashraf Ghani in the beginning. I cannot remember if that is true. So you could respond about Dostum or someone else that were part of that deal.
There were $60 million given to Mr. Atta Mahmoud Noor, governor in the north, and even 50 million to General Abdul Rashid Dostum, the local commander, the local commander in the north.
Okay, so you said that, right?
Yeah, that was no me. It was right report. It was by the Italian TV.
Okay. بله میگم گفتم که در اینجا دو نفر دیگه هم دست داشتن و به اونا هم مبلغ رسیده که تقریبا $60 میلیون به عطا محمد نور و در حدود $50 میلیون به عبدالرشید دوستم داده شد.
خب یک صحبت هم ما با شما و هموطنان عزیز دارم دکتر سید.
بله.
شاید سوال نباشه از جناب لورنس گرامی که مهمان مرکزی ما است. یک هفته شده این خبر رسانه‌ای شده اشرف غنی، عطا محمد نور، جنرال دوستم چرا تکذیب نکردن به اضافه دولت قطر، دولت امریکا؟
اوکی.
نه این سوال است که من شما داریم.
بله.
بحث کنیم راجع بهش.
ما فکر میکنم عطا محمد نور رد کرده. بله. اونا بخیر رد هم کردن و اعتراض هم کردن در مقابل از این خبر. کدام اعتراض نوشتاری نوشته کردن نمیفهم به ایتالیا یا به سازمان ملل. نه
ما اطلاع ندارم، شاید به خاطر از شما پرسیدم. از جنرال دوستم چی؟
اونا هنوز چیز نگفتن.
خود اشرف غنی
اونا هم رد نکردن.
دولت قطر
هنوز هیچ ابراز نظر نکردن از تصدیق یک گپ یا ردش. اونا من نشنیدم.
این خاموشی هم به مقدار گمان زنی را بر تایید سند تصدیق نمیکنه.
Okay, he said it has been 1 week that this document was released and this allegation was made over Ashraf Ghani and his team, but there was no response from Ashraf Ghani or Atta Noor or Abdul Rashid Dostum to confirm or to reject it.
Well, as far as I know, Ghani and Noor didn't say a word. There was no reaction. But Dostum deny. He officially deny. He say absolutely no. He deny everything. He says it's not true.
Okay, and I heard Ato Muhammad Noor also denied and they rejected. Yeah. Mega bale Ashraf Ghani هیچ عکس العمل نشان نداده و عطا محمد نور و اشرف عبدالرشید دوستم او را رد کرده، گفته که حقیقت نداره.
ولی دولت قطر و از طرف ایالات متحده آمریکا اونا هم عکس العمل گویا نداشتن این دو تا نهاد.
And there was no reaction from the Qatar government and the government of United States as well.
Yeah, till now, as far as I know, I was checking just a few minutes before you called me. I didn't see any reaction by them.
میگه بله ما هم امی پیش از امی پروگرامم چک کردم دیدم کدام عکس العمل از طرف امریکا و دولت قطر هنوز نامده.
خب یک سوال از جناب لورنس، چند سال افغانستان رو میشناسن و چقدر سفر داشتن و از چه ساله؟
Okay. He is asking how do you know about Afghanistan and how many time you traveled to Afghanistan, since when? If you could give us few point of information.
Well, my first visit in Afghanistan was at the end of the so-called jihad after the collapse of the Soviet regime. And the first real visit, which I was there briefly, but the first real visit was, I think, was in 1999. So the Taliban were on power. They arrived in 96, so I stayed in Kabul, was about a month and a half. I met with Mutawakkil in Kandahar. Mutawakkil was a Taliban foreign minister in the government at the time, and I had the possibility to travel all over the country. And then, of course, I went back at the moment of the American invasion. It was in October, November, and I stayed there a long time. I stayed till February. So I followed all the events, the collapse of the Taliban regime, the beginning of the new course. I was there also at the time of the famous Yola Jirga in Bonn in March, and I was in Afghanistan. And then on and off many times, because then the Italian contingent arrived. So the Italians were there, first of all in Kabul, and then I don't know, tens of time in Herat. And I started traveling. And I tell you, the freedom of my movements was parallel to the growth of the Taliban. So at the beginning, we were traveling all over easily, no problem, from Nuristan to Spinboldak, emergencies. The Italian NGO was there. I visited them many times. I don't know how many times, I would say 20, 30 times during the elections, during the Karzai, and then Abdullah. I mean, many times, sir. Many times.
اوکی. اینا گفتن که افغانستان ما از دیر زمان باش سر و کار دارم و میشناسم این مملکت و سرزمینه و بار اول که من اونجا رفتم اونجا دیگه در ختم جهاد بود و از بین رفتن حکومت دکتر نجیب و بار اول ما اونجا و بعد از او دیگه ما در افغانستان بودیم برای زیاد وقت در سالهای 96 ما با آقای متوکل که وزیر خارجه طالبان بود در دور اول با اونا ملاقات داشتم و چون در اونجا انجیوهای ایتالیا بود ما زیاد می رفتم و با اونا سر و کار داشتم. با قندهار سفر کردیم، با نورستان رفتیم، با سپین بولدک رفتیم و ما بعد از او که در 2001 قوای اطلاع افغانستان رفت دیگر رفتن ما بسیار زیاد شد در افغانستان چون ایتالیا و یک چیز داشت دخیل بود در مسائل، ما میرفتم و زیاد و بسیار زیاد رفتیم، نمیدانم چند دفعه، ممکن 20 مرتبه، ممکن 30 مرتبه دیگه.
تشکر دکتر صاحب. ما خبر شدیم که جناب لورنس راجع به اوکراین هم در واقع معلومات بسیار دارن و کارشناس مسائل اوکراین هستند. میخواستم جدای از جنگ روسیه بر علیه اوکراین، ربط یا رابطه افغانستان با جنگ یا حمله روسیه بر علیه اوکراین بپرسم و تحلیلشان رو بگیریم.
Okay. He said, we have heard about you that apart from Afghanistan, you've been in contact with the issue of Ukraine in the war there by Russian. So the question is, how do you relate this to war, Afghanistan and Ukraine, and how this war can impact Afghanistan?
Well, we are now in a new, since the 24th of February of 2022, we are in a new era. Putin is imposing a war on Europe, and the logic of pure power, military power, is coming back. We are not anymore in an age of diplomacy, of negotiation, but what is important is to be strong and to be able to fight. So it's a new dimension. Now, if you want to compare, I always say that there is basic, in the last year, what happened? We have the Afghani people who collapsed, didn't fight enough, didn't fight well, and the result is a girl are not going to school, women are paying, men are obliged to have the shawar khamis. In Ukraine, people are fighting. So there are these two examples. One, collapse, which led to what happened now in Afghanistan, the social collapse, disaster.
Yes.
And then the Ukrainians are fighting.
Okay. اینا گفتن که جنگ اوکراین بله جنگ روساس علیه اروپا و این یک مرحله نو تاریخ است که روس میخواهد که ما یک پاور هستم، یک قدرت هستم و این عصر دیگه عصر دیپلماسی نیست، باید جهان اونا را قدرت نظامیشانه به رسمیت بشناسه و او به خاطر تثبیت کار به حمله کرده به اوکراین تا قدرت خود تبارز بده و مسئله مقایسه اوکراین با افغانستان است که افغانستان کلاپس کرد، جنگ نکرد، ما مردم اوکراین می جنگند.
یکی از هموطنای ما نوشته که اگر جناب لورنس خبر داشته باشه یا نداشته باشه به عنوان یک محقق، پدر اشرف غنی هم در رشوتگیری از انگلیسی ها دست داشته و اسناد موجود است که میتونه ارسی باشه، نوع رشوتگیری که اشرف غنی در معامله افغانستان نمودن. یکی از هموطنای ما از استرالیا گفتن اسم ما را نبرید، عنوان کردن. چیزی شنیدم.
Okay. One of viewer has sent a comment regarding Dr. Ashraf Ghani's father, who was taking bribe from Britain. So that could be that Ashraf Ghani genetically is a bribe taker. He means like that. And the person who sent that view asked to be not named.
Better. But
Yeah.
I tell you, I really believe that the guilt of the father doesn't go on the children, on the sons, on the
Yeah.
children. I really believe it.
Yeah, this American has an expression.
Exactly.
They said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It means the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that really I don't accept. It's not. I don't think there is this genetical thing. It's another story. I mean, we Afghan and Western were part of the coalition. We should look thoroughly to the reason of the terrible failure of the Afghani story. We are all responsible. It's terrible what happened. I'm thinking about the civil society, the price that the civil society is paying in Afghanistan. We are guilty. We have to learn from our mistake.
Yeah, that's right.
And really, is more grave than the singular figure of Ashraf Ghani. Ashraf Ghani now is becoming kind of a symbol, but it's not only Ashraf Ghani. And let me tell you something. I think we should have left earlier. I mean, the international coalition should have left earlier, and the Afghan should have really tried to absorb, to talk with the Taliban much earlier. It was very important. Well, the Pashtun society is part of the Afghani society. There is no way that they can be cut off.
Yeah, you mean that the length of war in Afghanistan was meaningless, right?
Was meaningless and radicalized everybody. And the Taliban became more radical than before. But again, it was important from the Yolak Jirga born to have them. They asked at the time. They were destroyed. The Afghani should have said, yes, come in. Karzai should have said, come in. And it didn't happen. And that was the beginning of the mistake. Because the Pashtun that society is part of Afghanistan. You like it or not.
Yeah. میگن که افغانستان اگر از قصه اشرف غنی بگذاریم، مسائل دیگه هم هست که این حالت افغانستان برای افغانا و برای ما مردمی که متحد افغانا بودیم دردآور است، تأسف آور است بسیار زیاد. و ما قوای خارجی از افغانستان باید بسیار وقت می‌آمدن از افغانستان و با طالبا مردم افغانستان باید بسیار وقت کنار می آمدن. اما این جنگ طالبان را بیشتر متعرض ساخت، هنوز افراطی تر ساخت اونا را که امروز افغانستان در یک حالت بد قرار داره و ما از این باید درس های بگیریم و بیاموزیم.
بسیار تشکر. خب نطفه سناریو در بن در سال 2001 کشته شد و اکنون که سال 2023 است، همین لحظه که من با شما صحبت میکنم کرزی در برلین مشغول رایزنی برای احتمالاً بن سوم است اگر در جریان نیستم.
So this painful story of Afghanistan was originated from a Bonn conference in 2001, and that is true. And he said, now we are hearing, and there is a rumor that Karzai is trying to hold a third Bonn conference. And I don't know what would be his perspective in this regard. Do you know about this?
Well, I know that Karzai, in a very courageous way, I have to say, very courageously, decided to stay in Kabul. And that was very courageous because we know that the Taliban, a part of the Taliban hated him, and we know the Taliban are not monolithic. So there can be crazy, we know that there is Daesh, ISIS, crazy jihadists, and someone would be very happy to kill him. And he stayed because one of the reasons for him to quarrel with the American already, I would say 12, 13 years ago, still at the time of Barack Obama, was exactly that. He wanted to try to open up to the Taliban. Okay, I know that it is in his mind. I was hoping that something could have happened already when he started to talk with the Taliban in September 2021. It didn't happen. I don't know how many chances he has today. I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. And at the time, as you said, I'm very much absorbed in Ukraine. So I am, there I stop.
Okay, got you. میگه یک چیزی است که کرزی شهامت کرد و جرأت به خرج داد که در کابل ماند و با طالبان هست و قرار معلوم کرزی کوشش زیاد کرد از وقت که با طالبان سازش شد و با طالبان یک معامله صورت بگیره. نزدیک بود با طالبان، مقصدشی بود از وقت و حالی که چی فعالیت داره و در بن میخواید دیگه کنفرانس دایر بکنه در این مورد من خبر ندارم، چون من بسیار ذهن مصروف است با مسائل اوکراین، دیگه نمیتونم در این مورد ابراز نظر بکنم.
خب تشکر، وقتشان زیاد نمیگیریم. فقط میخواستم بپرسم که کتاب مقاله چیز نوشتاری در رابطه با افغانستان دارن نشان؟
Thankfully, at the end, I will ask, do you have anything documented or as a book regarding Afghanistan?
Well, I just published just a few months ago a book published in Italian, a very big book. I can show you if you want. It's called Guerra Infinita, the Infinite War, which deal a lot. It's about I'm 65 years old and I deal with all the war I followed in the last 45 years. And there is a lot about Afghanistan. 1 second, I can show to you. Just allowed me to take it. Just I show to you.
Sure. میگه کتاب خودم میخوایم نشان بدونید. من یک کتاب دارم. در این کتاب ما اکثرا مسائل جنگ است و گپای نوشتیم از افغانستان هم.
This is the book.
Oh, okay. This is in Italian, right?
It's in Italian. I hope to publish it in English. But in this book, there is a lot about, really, there are at least 150 pages. It's about 600 pages.
Wow.
About
صفحه داره.
And there is a lot about Afghanistan. And I allowed me to tell you only, you told me what there is that I wanted to say about Afghanistan. Among the big mistakes that we did as Western coalition, it was in the summer, at the moment of the 15th of August, at the moment of the arrival of the Taliban in Kabul, to take out from Afghanistan so many Afghani citizens, which were the, how can I say, the best of the people of the country. People who knew the languages, people who traveled, educated. The
cream of society.
The cream, as you say, the cream of society. That was an incredible mistake because these were the people who were able to mediate between the society and the Taliban. Of course, anti-Taliban, but not all of them would have been killed. Doctor, engineer, technicians.
Professionals.
Professional. We impoverish. I mean, we gave to the Afghan and then we took them out. I know they wanted to leave. Of course they wanted to leave. We should have thought for the long period. Who are these people? These people are the people who can guarantee a civil society. And now the society is with the extremists and the poor. And that was a mistake.
Yeah, you mean that the evacuation of Afghan professional was
a big mistake.
A big mistake in that was not good for Afghanistan, right?
At all.
اینا میگن چیزی را که ما میخوایم بگوییم و اشتباه بزرگی را که ائتلاف جهانی در افغانستان مرتکب شد نحوه برآمدنشان از افغانستان و اجازه دادن او مردمای منور افغانستان، مردمای مسلکی افغانستان که اونا سرآمد جامعه افغانی بودن، او را از افغانستان کشیدن و افغانستان از نظر مردمای مسلکی و فرهنگی فقیر ساختن. این گفت یک کار بسیار غلط بود که شد برای افغانستان.
ورود امریکا و در مجموع ناتو را تایید میکنن در 20 سال؟
Do you confirm the involvement of United States in coalition in Afghanistan? Do you confirm it or not?
I don't understand. The coalition now?
No. In that during the 20 years, that was a legitimate involvement, or you doubt it?
Well, it grew. I tell you, as you know, this is history, but it's good to remember what happened. At the beginning, the target of the American was not to rebuild the society, was just to target Al-Qaeda, to capture Osama bin Laden and eventually Mullah Omar, and then go back.
Okay.
But then Osama bin Laden escaped. Al-Qaeda was not really finished. And then they stayed. And there was a moment. The idea of from a war operation, from a war mission to a state building, let's say, started in 2005, 2006. And it was requested by the local society. I think was badly done and was not really thought. There was no real planning. There was many mistakes by the NGO. We're working in no coordination, doing the same thing. A lot of waste of money, a lot of corruption, money coming from United Nations, NGO, prostitution from China, terrible. Alcohol, that was also, I mean, respect for the local tradition. All this was mixed up, and it was really an accumulation of mistakes. There was no planning. So if you ask me at the end of this trial, my answer is yes. It was the decision to manage the state building of Afghanistan after 2001 was badly done and badly implemented.
Okay, and badly administered. So you mean the involvement of the United States troops in international coalition was a need, and that was valid to finish Taliban or to remove Al-Qaeda from Afghanistan. But when it comes to nation building or state building, so they were failed. And
it was not planned well. There was no thinking about
it. So that strategy did not go well.
No, at all.
Since there was no planning and there was no willing to do the job. So the story become opposite. You mean that? تاییدم نکردن، ردم نکردن حضور قوای خارجی را در افغانستان. در یک بود گفت که درست بود که رفتن در مقابل طالبا، رژیم افرادی طالبا را در افغانستان خلا کردن و القاعده را در افغانستان مختنق ساختن. درست بود. اما بعد از او که باید اینا مملکت می ساختن، در او مورد اینا به ناکامی مواجه شدن و علتش نبودن پلان و بسیار فساد و کرپشن و یک اراده نبود و مو علت بود که افغانستان و این ماموریت خراب شد و با موافقت عام و تام نانجامید.
ضرر و زیانش مردم افغانستان کشن. تشکر. چند کلمه فارسی بلدن و از چه غذاهای خوششون میاد؟
خب چند کلمه فارسی بلدن؟
بله. و از غذاهای افغانی چی خوششون میاد؟
Okay. He is asking as a final question that how many Farsi or Afghani language you know, Afghani words, and what kind of Afghani food you like?
Well, I tell you, I like all the Afghani food. I like it's very natural. I like all the vegetables. I like the meat. I tell you, my best in my life, I come from Italy, which is considered a country of good food, right? Pasta, pizza. I tell you, the best meat I ever had was in Kandahar. A fantastic meat I still remember. So, and I enjoyed the countryside. I went walking on the mountain of Panjshir. I enjoy trekking, and I hope one day, I still hope to have I like trekking, I like mountaineering, to have the possibility to go to trek in the Wakhan corridor. I still hope to do that because you potentially, you are a country of incredible beauty. You can have tourists, you can be very rich. Afghanistan is a lovely country. It's really, I am in love with Afghanistan. Believe me, it's from my heart. And it's a pity to see as it is now.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
گفتن که افغانستان غذایش مکل غذایی که گوشت است و یا سبزی است ما بسیار دوست دارم به خاطر اینکه که طبیعی است، نچرال است و بسیار لذیذ است. غذای افغانی مخصوصا گوشتی را که ما در قندهار خوردم یک قدر لذیذ و مزه‌دار بود که اندازه نداره. افغانستان تعریف کرد که افغانستان یک سرزمین زیبا است، یک سرزمین غنی است و ما بسیار در اطراف و قرا و قصبات افغانستان گشتیم و یک آرزو دارم که واخان دهلیز واخان کوریدور هم ببینم و او آرزو تا حال هم پیشم است و شما بسیار یک سرزمین زیبا دارین. ما نان ایتالیایی بسیار مشهور است که نان لذیذ است مثل پاستا، پیزا، اما غذای افغانستان هم کم از اون است.
از زبان فارسی یا پشتو چیزی هم میدونم؟
Do you have any few words from Farsi or Pashto languages?
Well, now it's a bit of time. Yes, of course. When I was there for a long time, I pick up words. Yes, some, Tashakur, of course, that we go. But you caught me. I'm prepared. But yes, I can deal with stuff. Yes, a little bit.
بله، باز واژه‌های فارسی را یاد دارم مثل تشکر و امثالهم. چون دیر شده ما اونجا نبودیم، چیزای به یادم نیست، مگم بله آشنا هستم گفت که.
Also because I know a bit of Arabic and there are some words of Arabic which are declined in Afghani language, so this also help a little bit.
میگم ما با بعضی واژه‌های عربی هم بلد هستم که در افغانستان هم مورد استعمال داره.
به عنوان آخرین پرسش، امیرالمومنین طالبان موجود هست یا خیر؟
Oh, he is asking another final question.
It's a third final question. Yes.
Oh, yeah. This is second final question. Hope there is no third. Okay. So he is asking about the existence of the Taliban's leader, Mullah Hibatullah. Does he exist?
That's a big question we were asking. We journalists. I even went 2 times to Kandahar in September because there was a rumor that he was there. I really I suspect, yes. I think it's a kind of, you want to create an aura, a name of like a kind of mythological presence, like Mullah Omar, you know. So I think he's trying to base his charisma on this absence presence in the country. But I think yes, it does exist. Yes.
این میگم من فکر میکنم که او موجود است و حضور داره دیگه. اون طرز کاریزماتیک خودشان است که اونا خوش دارن، مثل ملا عمر واره که در ارتباط با مردم نباشن و من زیاد باور دارم که او موجود است.
خب بسیار زیاد تشکر دکتر صاحب از شما که زحمت کشیدیم، با همچنین مهمان گرامی جناب گرمونزی لورنس. اگر خود شما فکر میکنید نکته مانده باشه یا مهمان گرامی پیام داشته باشه برای مردم افغانستان، در پایان میشنوید.
Okay, I think he is done. No more final question.
تشکر.
Yeah, and he said if there is something left or you want to add, so just feel free to say any message to Afghans or anything you want to say. So go ahead.
I tell you, for me, it was very important to add this observation about the mistake of taking out people from Afghanistan. I know that, you know, people want to leave. I know why, and I know how dangerous it can be. But that's my final remark. This question that we should have thought, even on that evacuation, much more thoroughly. We should have restricted the policy of withdrawal and to take the right people, of course, ex-policemen, people involved in the prison, officer, translator, fixer, yes, but not everybody, and not in that way, in the fashion that happened, in that really terrible fashion that happened in the Kabul airport in the summer 2021. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. میگن که ما مرتبه دیگه تأثیر خود ابراز میکنم نسبت به واقعات تخلیه که در افغانستان صورت گرفت در اگست 2021 و مردم دانسته افغانستان، مردم منور افغانستان باید از افغانستان نبرامد. بله، بعضی کسای نظامی که حیاتشان در خطر بود درست، مگر باید مردم منور و مسلکی افغانستان در اونجا می بود و نحوه و شیوه تخلیه از افغانستان برای ما متاثر کننده است و امی گفتار ما بود و بسیار زیاد تشکر.
بسیار زیاد تشکر دکتر صاحب محمد شایب یوسفزئی و جناب گرمونزی لورنس، خبرنگار اخبار صبح ایتالیا. هموطنان گرامی، مهمانی که ما امروز همراه داشتیم در ارتباط با سندی که دولت ایتالیا یکی از کانال‌های تلویزیونی GT1 ایتالیا نشر کرد مبنی بر دریافت رشوت از طرف اشرف و ارسال رشوت توسط امیر قطر، مسئله را به بحث گرفتیم. اگر چنین چیزی صحت و سقمش 100% ثابت شود در خیانت ملی اشرف و اضافه نفرات دیگری که نام برده شده و دهنده رشوت امیر قطر مورد پیگرد قانونی و حقوقی قرار خواهند گرفت و این موضوع با مردم افغانستان این شکایت محفوظ خواهد ماند که کی این اتفاق رخ بده تاریخ مشخص خواهد کرد. از یک شما سپاسگزاریم که همراه ما بودید. هموطنان گرامی، اگر چنانچه دسترسی به شواهد و مدارک دارید که بتواند خیانت عوامل حکومت اشرف غنی، عوامل سیاسی علاوه خصوص و نظامی را بازتاب بدهید، میتوانید با صفحه سیاست افغانستان در تماس شوید. دیدگاه‌های دقیق و فنی شما را همراه با حضور کارشناسان و بحث و بررسی خواهیم گرفت، ضمن که قضیه اشرف غنی و تیم سیاسیش یک بخش کوچکی از سناریوی افغانستان است. بحث طالبان، بحث قطر، دوحه، عربستان، کشورهای عربی، پاکستان، ایران، ترکمنستان، تاجیکستان، ازبکستان، چین، روسیه، هند، ترکیه، اینا کشورهایی است که مستقیم در موضوع افغانستان دخالت داشتن و اکنون هم وضعیت افغانستان را رصد میکنن نسبت به منافع ملی خودشان و تعاملات منطقه‌ای و جهانی. در واقع بازی شطرنج سیاسی را پیش میبرند. اینجا تنها کس یا کسانی ضرر میکنند که مردم افغانستان باشند و واقعا در طول تاریخ معاصر سیاسی جهان فکر نمیکنم ملت به اندازه مردم افغانستان در 40 سال اخیر به این مقدار یا به این قیاس رنج دیده باشه و ذلیل شده باشه و سیاستگرای مزدور و استخباراتیشان به این قدر خیانت کرده باشند و امروز هم هر از گاهی سرک میکشند خودشان و عاملشان و برف بام خودشان را بر بام دیگران میریزند. واقعا شرم تاریخ بر اینا بود. بازم تشکر از جناب دکتر سید محمد شعیب یوسفزی که زحمت ترجمانی را کشیدن و مهمان گرامی جناب گرمونزی لورنس. سپاسگزارم. خدا حافظ.
Okay.
تشکر.
He just said thank you so much for your insightful views, and we appreciate your participation, and thank you so much.
Thank you.